Safeguard Our Flank. Chapter 7, Part 14. The Attack Goes In. This is a roll call of Kensington officers on the 1st of July. There were in all 23 who took part in the attack, and of all ranks there were 615. The commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel W. H. Young, had only been attached to the Kensingtons for 2 days. He stayed at battalion headquarters organising support. Second in command, Senior Major Cedric C. Dickens, Major Mackenzie, Adjutant Lieutenant C.N.C. Howard, Transport Officer Lieutenant Holland, Medical Officer Lieutenant Keane, Quartermaster Lieutenant Ridley, and the drum major was Skinner. All musicians acted as stretcher bearers. Officer of Commander of A Company was Captain Robinson, with Lieutenants Lewin and Venables. Second Lieutenant Major Ansatch. The officer commanding B Company was Captain H. N. Whitty, with Lieutenants Rosevere, Penn, and Second Lieutenant Pike. Officer commanding C Company, Captain Ware, Lieutenants Cohen and Heath, Second Lieutenant Mason. Officer commanding D Company, Captain Taggart, with Lieutenant Parton and Second Lieutenant Beggs. The Pioneer Battalions were created as a new concept in the British Army in 1914, with a role to provide the Royal Engineers with skilled labour and to relieve the infantry from some of its non-combatant duties. Pioneers became the workhorses of the expeditionary forces and acted in conjunction with the army, constructing roads, bridges, working on entrenchments, fortifications, making mines and constructing approaches. They were provided with proper clothing, hatchets, saws, axes, spades and entrenching tools. The Coldstream Guards and over 3 dozen county regiments created at least one pioneer battalion. Several new army battalions were raised specifically as pioneers, while others were converted territorials or Kitchener's units formed originally as conventional infantry. The pioneers adopted a badge of a cross rifle and pick. They wired no man's land, dug trenches and revetted in all weathers and in all terrains. On many occasions, later in the war, they abandoned their working tools and fought alongside the infantry, repelling enemy attacks. In their efforts to stem the German offensives of 1918, several pioneer units fought themselves to virtual annihilation. The work of the pioneer battalions had largely been ignored or misunderstood. Far from being the units of the old and infirm, these 68 battalions played a major role in the Allied victory. A detail of the 5th Cheshire Pioneer Battalion, attached to the 56th Division, were constructing strong points in the German trenches, turning the firing positions to face the opposite direction, towards the Germans' new front line. On the right flank, the Kensington's A Company and Pioneers were digging the new flank-facing trench constructed under Major Dickens' leadership. A platoon was detailed off to wire up the German side when the new trench had been completed. The Royal Engineer Detachment was responsible for making sure the British wire barrier to the front had been opened sufficiently for the troops to advance, and the Germans' wire gapped to allow the infantry to carry through to take the German front-line trench. There was a problem that the gaps were narrow, and as soon as the charge went up, the Germans knew not only what was afoot but where, giving them chance to fix their machine gun lines on the gaps before the troops could reach them. Just as the artillery bombardment and creeping barrage, it was all a matter of timing. If you got it wrong, you were dead. In 1916, military communications were provided by the Royal Engineers Signal Service. Royal Corps of Signals was formed in 1920. Communications in the front line area were maintained by using line and telegraph between forward positions and formation headquarters. To effectively mask what was going on, a screen of smoke was laid down by smoke shells and mortar bombs. This didn't stop the Germans knowing an attack was likely to be made, but it did instill confidence in the advancing troops and did save lives. However, as happened on the 56th front, the smoke was so thick they couldn't see the gaps in the wire, not know which way to turn. It took a few moments for the company sergeants to direct the men to the gaps in the wire. In all instances it requires immediate effective control by the officers leading the men to make their orders understood. In the case of the 56th, this happened and all was well. In the case of the 46th, more smoke was not made and the men were mown down. During the battle, information about what was happening to the advancing troops was relayed by a runner attached to the senior field officer, and this would probably be the company runner. The captain would be stationed behind his company that was moving forward, and once the runner had left with a message, subsequent messages had to be made by a rifleman, who might not know where the company or headquarters was stationed. The message would take at least half an hour to receive an answer. Signalling by flag was out of the question. Once the field telephone lines were snagged, torn or cut, resighting the artillery to take on specific targets was impossible to order. Someone able to give instructions to the gun layer had to see the fall of shot to be sure a straddle, one shot over and one shot short, could be made. Once the men had begun to advance, the rear headquarters would have very little idea how the battle was progressing. Spotting from the air was the only recourse, unless the advancing troops could take out the machine gun nests themselves. The battle would be lost. This was going to be the biggest battle so far, conceived to take the strain off the French, who were beginning to buckle at Verdun. The artillery had enveloped the German trenches with continuous fire for weeks. Most men thought it inconceivable that the artillery could not and did not achieve what it had set out to do. They had faith in their officers when they were told it was going to be a walkover. Officers carried walking sticks, as did many NCOs. After all, the planning of every detail must have been covered, surely. As daylight began to break on the horizon, the men in the front line prepared themselves. Some washed, others shaved, some repacked their packs for the umpteenth time, others collected all their things around them, and breakfast was consumed and hot tea drunk. Again they checked for the umpteenth time their positions. The men nervously chatted about anything and everything with much force, laughter and bonhomie. Now the guns spoke again. It was rapid fire, a last period of hate which obliterated the German lines in lightning flashes, plumes of smoke and fountains of flung soil. The earth began to trickle once more from the sides of the trench as the ground quivered. All hell was breaking loose. They began to wonder if the wire in front of them was broken and the machine gun nests destroyed. They would soon find out.